Here's your daily dose of fitness, food, and fun. Anjelica's Daily Surprise starts now.
So this is looking perfect. So the sausage is pretty well cooked.
Okay.
We've got some beautiful fond on the bottom here. This beautiful kind of coloring. Fond, yes. And we're gonna go in with our flavorful. We're gonna just put this right in. You can chop this up. I like to leave it full. I just like the way it looks.
Yeah, you
I
just
just
wind
put
it
that
up on
on
your board, you know?
Exactly.
Wow.
We need a little bit more seasoning here. Even though the sausage has salt, we need to season this. And a little bit of pepper as well. Fresh ground pepper in there. And it doesn't need too long because the chimichurri is pretty much already cooked, having been blanched a little bit. So I'm just going to turn this off because we just need to wait for our pasta to finish cooking now, which is going to take probably another 6 minutes. And then I'll show you how to bring everything together.
So how many students do you have in your class at like one time?
So we fit 6 people around the table at one time. We've jammed in a few more from time to time, depending. But yeah, it's always a really kind of fun, casual group. Lots of storytelling from me, and everyone kind of cooks together. And then we all kind of move over to the dining table and we sit, and everyone shares stories and talks about the recipes and asks questions. And it's a really kind of casual, intimate experience that I like people getting to know each other. I do month-long series, so 4 classes over the span of a month, and it could be 6 people coming in that have never met each other before. Right. And by the end of the month, they all have gotten to know each other. And then on one-off classes on the weekends, again, it could be a mixed group, or sometimes it's private groups with families who are getting together, and it's always just so fun. And I love the idea, like the whole impetus of this came from, I grew up in a really large family. My grandmother had 10 kids, and I just have memories of her kitchen table just like throngs of all of her kids and their wives and our cousins, and it was just always so many people. And when I lived in Italy, it was the same thing. Big families around the table, members of the community coming in, and I just wanted to recreate that.
Yeah.
To where it was like the grandmother was just puttering away in the kitchen and all this action was happening at the dining room table. I just wanted that to be my job.
Oh my gosh.
So I love hosting dinner parties at my house. But there was a call for me to kind of do that within the community on a different scale. So, you know, I can't invite the community into my home every week. So what could I build?
Yeah.
And I literally live right next door. So
Yeah.
it's helpful. And yeah, I took this old blacksmith shop and was like, I think this would be the perfect little space. And it's been great. The community comes together, and it is just like being in my grandmother's house or all the Nona's houses that I lived in Italy.
Yeah. Like this hasn't been here. You haven't been here for very long in this space.
No, I renovated this space over the winter, and we opened it in June.
Yet it looks like you've been here for years. It's like very homey. The upstairs is gorgeous too. Like I can just imagine a snowstorm and curling up with one of your cookbooks and pretending like I'm going to do something. But
it's exactly sort of that kind of like romantic fantasy with the wood fire going in the winter, the cookbook libraries upstairs, you kind of cuddle up on the couch. And, you know, if we're in here having a class, or, you know, even if you're just coming in for like a cappuccino in the morning, you know, with the newspaper in front of the fire, and myself and my assistant Jill just puttering around in the kitchen, and we're chatting, and it's, you know, it's a business, but it really is a place that you can sort of call home as a customer. And my businesses that were on Main Street, they kind of had that feeling, but I couldn't be as one-on-one with my clientele because it was busy. So this just gives it a different atmosphere, and it brings warmth for me, and it brings warmth for the customers. Yeah. And, you know, it just is like a second home for people.
Yeah. And what were your businesses on Main Street again?
So I had started Enid Grace Cafe, which feels like forever ago. And that had a bit of a French tilt to it. And I think that was kind of a new thing for the county at the time.
I remember this.
I was doing what I thought was very normal kind of food.
It took the county by storm.
It was it was a little bit, maybe a wee bit esoteric at the time, but it took off, and it was such a small space. And so we kind of outgrew it. And as it happens, I was actually planning on moving back to Europe when I closed that business, when the opportunity to take over across the street came along.
Okay.
And I said to myself, if I'm going to do it, I'm going full Italian. Very selfishly, I wanted this place for myself so that I could feel like I was back in Italy, back at all these little cafes and little home businesses that I had spent so much time in. And if I thought Enid Grace Cafe was esoteric, this was taking it to the next level because it was full on Italian. And again, I was like, I'll give it a go. And if everyone hates it, at least I've loved it. And it worked. And that was an incredible ride, but it was exhausting.
Yeah.
And again, I just kind of wanted to scale down and have more time one-on-one with my customers and, you know, give them a different side of me and a different experience in what it's like to kind of be in my world and in my head. All right, I'm going to give the pasta a little check here. I think it was pretty close. It's feeling pretty close. So my experience in the north to the south is classic al dente is in the north, and the farther south you go, it gets even more al dente.
Wow.
So when you're dealing with fresh pasta in the south, it has this incredible chew to it, which I have become to love. And then when I've been in Puglia, the pasta, even if it's like a spaghetti, it's almost just slightly raw in the center. Like if you cut into it, you can just sort of see this little strip line of like white.
Yeah.
It's just slightly raw. So that needs about 1 minute more.
Okay.
It's almost there. It's going to have a bit of carryover cooking once it's in the pot.
Right.
So I'm going to turn this pot back on.
Okay.
Back on medium heat. I'm going to get a bit of a ladle ready here. I'm going to need a little bit of pasta water. And then I have some Parmigiano Reggiano on deck as well.
I know what that is.
This is the good stuff. And we're going to do a quick little emulsification,
Okay.
which would be the fat that's in the pan mixed with the pasta water, mixed with the cheese, and that creates a sauce. All these three things emulsify together and actually creates the sauce. What's important is that your Parmigiano is grated like this. It's not grated like in strips, because that will just kind of get all claggy together and will stick to your spoon. This will actually melt in with the pasta water, with the starchy water and the little bit of fat that we have there. And then we're good to bring in our pasta, and we're going to go directly from pot to pot. No need to strain.
Oh, that's great. I hate the straining.
It's an unnecessary part. And as I'm bringing this pasta in, I'm actually bringing some of the pasta water.
Yes, I see that.
I'm not giving it much opportunity to drain off.
Do you make your own pasta?
I do. It's probably my most popular classes that I teach are the ones where we do French pasta.
Really?
And I do a variety. I do Northern style and Southern and South style pastas. Oops. All right, that's good. So you can give that a little stir. I'm just going to add just a little bit, probably 2 ladlefuls.
Okay.
Most, not too much, just shy of that. And we're going to give that a minute on high heat. So this will finish cooking the pasta, this little bit of heat.
Okay.
And then turn the heat off and in with your Parmigiano. You don't want to add the Parmigiano while your heat is still on.
Okay.
I'm going to save a little bit of this to top. And then...
And why? I'm sure there's an obvious answer, but why do you...
if the pan is too hot for the cheese, it might cause it to separate.
Okay.
And then again, you'll end up with little kind of chunks of the cheese instead of it melting all together.
Okay.
So you just want to move it around quickly, getting everything sort of coated in this. It's a light sauce.
Do you have a technique for this?
No, what you're doing is
How am I
totally fine.
doing?
I mean, sometimes tongs work a little bit easier. Here, we can just sort of switch over here and just
Okay.
make sure everything is getting...
I'm having a hard time
Last one.
separating
No
the
worries.
rapini.
So this is perfect. So you can
Beautiful.
see just in the bottom here. So from here, let's bring this over. Grab a towel.
And how's this?
It's doing just fine. I gave it a check a minute ago.
Okay.
So actually, let's bring this out. And it can cool while we serve up. So we've got this gorgeous sabrizalona. Nice and crispy and golden on the top. Down. And then let's bring our pasta over. Make all of this seem so easy. I assure you it is easy. Oh, it just takes more than anything. What I try and teach my students is that it's really just confidence. Because like, it doesn't always have to look exactly the same or look perfect. But if you're confident in what you're doing, generally speaking, it'll probably taste good.
Serve this up. So we got this gorgeous macaroni, fennel sausage.
Wow.
We've got a double hit of garlic because we've got a little bit of garlic in the sausage. And then we sliced up some garlic as well. And this beautiful chimichurri.
And this seems healthy too.
Pasta is healthy. Again, it's one of those things that's in moderation. And, you know, this is a slightly bigger portion because this is, again, sort of 2 to 3 people. But pasta is healthy. Good quality pasta, you know, made with good flour is healthy. And a little bit of protein. There's not a ton of meat in there.
Right.
You know, vegetables, some green vegetables. Let's move this out of the way. And then we'll just finish this off. Oops, not that one. With a little bit more parmigiano. And then that is a macaroni with chimichurri and sausage.
Oh my gosh, that just looks so beautiful. Oh, how do Italians eat pasta and pizza? And they're some of the most healthy, long-living people on the planet.
It's portion control for one. Their portions are completely different than ours. And then there's a structure to the culture of cooking and eating. So, you know, for instance, if you're having a large lunch, which could be, like we spoke of, a little bit of antipasti, then you'll have a primi, a secondi, and then maybe a dolce, like a little dessert. But there's a long walk after that.
Yeah.
There's always, you know, something physical that happens afterwards. And food is about pleasure and joy as opposed to sustenance. I need it in my stomach so that I can continue on with the day. There's rituals around food there that I long for when I'm here. And part of what I try to do here, whether it's classes or, you know, the culinary teachings that we do, or even if you just come in for a coffee, it's take a moment to actually enjoy what you're consuming.
Yes.
As opposed to, I need it in a to-go
Grab and
cup.
go.
I need it to get out of here. I need to get on with my day.
When I lived in Madrid, I was like going to school, and I would go to the Museo de Jamón, and I'd get a coffee, and I'd be like, "Can I get it to go?" And they'd be like, "To go?" Like they were insulted by the fact that I would ask for my coffee to go, and they eventually got used to giving it to me that way. But they were like, I felt weird about it, so I eventually just stopped doing.
My friends in Italy, when COVID happened, one of the hardest parts for them was morning, afternoon coffee culture was they couldn't go into the bars. And bars had to bring in little to-go cups. And I remember my Italian friends sending me pictures being like, what is this? How do you do this in North America? And I was like, it's not something that I do, but they really had like a hard time adjusting to coffee out of paper,
Right.
and having to like not have that interaction with, you know, the barista, the bartender. It was really a culture shock for them. Something I don't think that they would ever want to go back to.
No.
So dive in, have a little taste.
Okay.
It's a little bit spicy,
I like it.
a little bit bitter, a little bit creamy.
Trying to get a little bit of everything here. Oh my God.
It's just sort of the perfect combination. A little bit salty, but yeah, given the choice, my partner would have me make this 3-4 times.
Yeah.
And he almost never finishes anything on his plate unless this is on his plate.
Wow.
But it's so simple.
This is so incredible. I'm sorry, I'm going in.
Please, eat.
I'm going in.
While you're having another bite,
I feel like the luckiest woman in the world right now.
I'm gonna get you a little espresso so we can have a little
I'm
sabrizalona.
gonna try to take a rapini. Oh, rapini. I'm sure I have this all up in my teeth and I don't care.
Right. So I've got a little espresso for you. And then our sabrizalona.
Wow.
Which again with my, so like I said, you can just lift this out of the tray, and you would want to let this cool
You've changed my life.
completely to room temperature.
The sausage.
Like so. And then typically what the Italians do is once it's completely cooled is they just break it
Right.
by hand, and you get little uneven shards and chunks and things like that. You can use a knife if you want, but it would not look correct. I made this a few times at Piccolina, and we did just break it off into chunks, and customers thought we had just broken it and decided to
Right.
serve it. It's like, no. It's meant to be this way. But I'll just kind of just cut off a random chunk here because it's not quite cool enough to
Wow.
break by hand. But it's just like a little crumbly
Wow.
cookie. And again, once it totally cools, it firms up, and then it's perfect for dipping. But with a little espresso,
You can really smell the orange too.
yeah, it totally comes through, and you get that little waft of almond oil. I'm gonna make a cappuccino as well, and then we can do a little dip. You can see both.
I can't even handle this right now. This is the best thing I've eaten. It's so crazy because I'm 4 months pregnant. Wow, surprise! But I've been like off of meat, and I'm like a huge carnivore. I love meat. I eat meat every day. Then this happens. I make it sound like it was an accident. Not an accident, but it's weird how I've been getting turned off of meat. And this is the first time I've eaten meat, and I'm like, give me more meat. It's so good.
And it's just a little bit. And again, it sort of echoes the whole idea of the Italian ethos of cooking. It's the tiniest bit of the best quality that you can get makes a huge difference.
And I feel like that's you, you know?
I try. All right, a little steam here.
So my parents live literally a 2-minute walk away from here.
Yes.
And they were so excited when you opened. They're like, we're gonna walk over, you're gonna walk over, and you're gonna have this. And I'm just like, yeah. So when I came here and I sat in the back there and I had a little coffee and the bagel and you have the whole tray, I'm just like, oh, I just fell in love with this place.
And that's the thing, you had a moment. You got to sit down with your mom, have a little moment, have a nice little bit of food, a coffee where you weren't, chugging it down in haste.
Yeah.
All right.
This is so good.
Let's just do a little thing with a little bit of foam in it here. Go. And then you just take your Sabrizalona and just
Oh my
a little bit
goodness.
up on there.
Wow.
Little crema, little coffee.
Ooh. That looks so good.
Oh, it's so good. And it's so simple.
Break me off a piece of that.
There you go. I broke right in some.
Thank you. Wow. Okay, so I just dip it. Do a little, whoops.
And you'll lose your little bits.
I'll lose it.
But by the time you get to the bottom of that coffee, you have your little spoon and you can get the little bits.
I'm coming apart.
So Sabrizalona in dialect is like by hand, broken by hand, is what it translates to.
Wow.
As you can see, case in point. And this is perfect. Make this, leave it on the counter a couple days. The drier it gets, the even better it is for dipping into coffee.
It's like a biscotti.
100%. Without having to do the double bake. Great texture.
Wow. Like, you're a
And I think
genius.
there was 6 ingredients, something like that. Easy. Another little secret, a little bit of vanilla gelato. Bust this up on top of it.
Stop.
Yogurt in the morning, really thick yogurt. Bust this up on top of it.
Whoa.
There's so many things you can do with it.
Yeah, this
For
is like,
such a simple.
this is the first and last thing I think I'll ever have that it is like a breakfast and a dessert.
This thing, Italians are not an egg and bacon culture for breakfast. They are a little bit of sweet, cornetto, a little biscotti, something like that. But it's small. It's not a huge breakfast. A little bit of cafe, espresso, cappuccino. And that's it. And you're kind of on to the day. And they really focus on the afternoon meal as sort of like the big deal.
Do they do a siesta?
Yes.
That's one thing in North America that needs to be adapted.
Yeah, every time I come back, especially if I've come back after a longer trip, I try to implement it, but
It doesn't
it's hard.
really work.
Even with this business, I was like, I tried to structure this. I mean, it's no accident that I put a couch upstairs. It's sort of like we would work all afternoon. You know, I'd make a nice little lunch and then go upstairs and have a rest. It never happens because it doesn't matter how much you try to scale.
Yeah.
You know, you always want to be fortunate that you're so busy, but you all are busy, and you have to, in this culture here, you have to plan for rest as opposed to just being part of your day.
Yeah, because you're a morning person.
I am very much a morning person, yeah.
Yeah, it's hard to sustain that energy all day though. And it's like, I'm a morning person and I'm a night person, but I'm not an afternoon person. And after living in Spain for 2 years, I was like, the nap became a part of me.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I need to restructure my life so that there's nothing happening between like 2 and 4 or 3 and 5. And sometimes that doesn't go over so well here.
Yeah, I try as well. And what's also interesting is, and I'll probably do it, I'm only going to be in Italy for about 10 days at the end of the month. And probably by the 5th day, the way I have this tour structured is we do have the siesta built in kind of after the lunch.
Nice.
What I notice every time I go is I can fall asleep. I can't nap here, but the second I'm in a culture where it is like, it's
Acceptable.
applauded, I can nap no problem. I will pass out for a solid half an hour after lunch. Whereas here I try, even between classes, I can't do it.
Wow,
The
because
brain
you
just doesn't
know
shut off.
that not everybody's doing it maybe?
Yeah. And I sort of factor in, I probably should be doing this, or I should get ahead of this, or, you know, those types of things where when you're in a culture where it's just sort of, take it easy, take a moment, have an extra piece of somebody's alona, have it like, it's just different. And again, I think eventually, maybe by the time I'm 65, I'll get it down and I'll be able to relax into real sort of Italian living here in Canada.
So how many times a year do you do your trips to Italy?
So this is our first year of the My Tours, and this is our first trip coming up at the end of September, but our plan is to do 3 or 4 of them every year. So we're just finalizing Sicily for the beginning of April, and then our hope is we'll do at least 2 more next year. So we're just sort of building it up, and people are excited. When I agreed to do these, I was really passionate that they not be this like rigid, scheduled, you have to be here at this time.
Right.
I wanted people to kind of come with me. I've been there enough times. I kind of understand the culture. And it's sort of like you become an immediate chameleon in the community. So you're just sort of going with the flow of whatever village or town we were in. And, you know, if you want to come to the market with me, you can. If you want to do the cooking classes with me, you can. If you don't want to, you can do your own thing. You know, hang out at the villa, do whatever you want. But it's sort of structured where I want to take you to a few places I've been that maybe you haven't been to before, a couple little hidden gems, introduce you to the locals, and especially this time of year at the markets, like the bounty that's available and teaching you how to cook with what's in season in a small group in a beautiful setting. That's really what I was after, and just wanted people to feel like they were not a tourist in this place, that they were actually taking 7 to 8 days to feel like they were kind of a little bit of a member of that community for a small period of time with someone that has been there enough times that they kind of can walk around the town and be like, here's something maybe you would have missed.
Right.
Had you been on this like really rigid,
yes,
we have to be here at 8:15 and here at 12:30.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I wish you the best of luck.
Thank you.
With everything you do. Thank you so much for inviting us to my table today. It was such an honor getting to help you and to just have this little private lesson. I feel so spoiled. Thank you so much,
Thank you
Enid.
so much.
If you want to stay updated with Enid Grace, you can check out enidgrace.com or on Instagram at enidgrace_mytable. That's it for now, and that's been Anjelica's Daily Surprise. Arrivederci.
Ciao.